What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another one. People, in today's video, we want to discuss why Cape Town works. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know, we family, right? Hello. People, let's think of all the possible things that make Cape Town work, right? Or let's think of all the reasons, possible reasons why Cape Town works or seems to work, and all the other cities don't seem to work as greatly as Cape Town does. So, number one, there's no ANC. Number two, there's no corruption or less corruption. Number three, there's no black involvement at management level. Number four, there's no cadre deployment or comrade placement. Number five, there is political will, financial will. And there's just a whole narrative behind trying to create a certain type of city that hasn't been seen yet in the new version of South Africa. There's financial backing and there's political backing to create that city. And that is why when we say Cape Town works, it's not like Joburg doesn't have beautiful spaces, beautiful places. It's not like Durban doesn't have those beautiful spaces and places too. It's just that when you're looking at the city center, right, starting from the center of the city spreading outwards, Durban and Johannesburg lack in that space because the dirt, the filth, just the all around township feel to those cities is now creeping in. You know what I mean? So, whereas it crept in basically because those city centers are almost like no-go zones. You know what I mean? Because of the crime rate, just the all-round danger aspect to being the city center. So let's break down these things, right? Number one, we say there's no ANC. So the ANC governs what? 8 different provinces, right? And well, they have a hand in about 8 different provinces because of the failure, the losing grip on power election that's resulted in them having to share power with power players, power brokers. Even prior to that, let's just talk prior to that, right? I know coalitions are very difficult to navigate because you have your certain way of doing things, they have their certain way of doing things. Partners in anything is always a difficult thing to navigate because even in business, you and your partner may not see eye to eye on certain things. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you need this thing to move forward by any means necessary, right? And a lot of times, cities don't work because coalitions don't agree on certain ways to go about doing things, right? So if you look at Johannesburg and Durban, for example, right? So let's look at the ANC because they're the biggest and they're running it for, right? So we compare those two pre the election, right? So in Johannesburg, when the ANC was in control, and then Durban when the ANC was in control, right? Compared to Cape Town when the DA has always been in control, right? You will notice that the levels of corruption are very high in Durban and Johannesburg. Political killings, political is very high also in KwaZulu-Natal. And it's all these negative things that add to the degradation of a city. Now, most people may not understand that, right? They might look at it as if to say you need to eliminate your enemies because they are hampering or stalling progress, right? Political killings is not just in one breath, but it's in one way a form of trying to get rid of your political enemies for stifling growth. It is also a, a deterrent. It's also a for tourism, right? Because if those political killings get out into the open, what do tourists think about it, right? Taxi violence, taxi wars, all these things. Understand what I'm saying? When we come to Johannesburg, you will see that once beautiful places that are in and around the city center, right? So apparently, the city center used to be a beautiful place. It used to be a secured environment. Hillbrow, Joubert Park, and Berea, and Yeovil. These used to be beautiful spaces, apparently, in the 80s. These were like 70s, 80s. These were like beautiful spaces. I think early 90s as well. These were like beautiful spaces. People used to walk. Apparently, even white people used to live there. Have you seen what those places look like? I mean, it's even shocking that in Johannesburg city center, you cannot feel safe. It looks like you have been transported to a high class township, so to speak. Like certain streets, if not most streets, are just a no-go zone. So most people are prepared to go to Rosebank, Sandton. A lot of people are so scared to go into the city center because of scared of being mugged, just the crime rate, just the degradation, just man, so many hijacked buildings in the city center alone. That already tells you a picture of how Johannesburg is run, right? Okay, so rampant corruption, cadre deployment, both in KZN and Gauteng. That's another problem. Pretoria, man, just the water situation, long electricity cuts, even when there's blackouts, or not blackouts, when there's load shedding. The rest of the country gets an extra 3 to 4, 5, 6 hours of load shedding, and Cape Town gets between 3, 4, 5, 6 hours less normally. So depending on the length of load shedding, Cape Town normally gets between 2 and 4 hours less. Why is that? You know what I mean? So cadre deployment, competent deployment, that is a huge thing, right? So like I'm saying, because there's no ANC and there's no cadre deployment, that's why Cape Town is functioning. You may not trust me, you may not believe me, but Cape Town, they're putting people that actually do their work. Now, you may not like it. We may look at it and say it's racism. They're only deploying white people. Are they getting the job done? Yes, they are. Okay. Then we are going to look at corruption. Is the DA corrupt? Of course. Is the NC corrupt? Of course. No doubt. But we all know that even in America, they corrupt. Europe is corrupt. Asia, they corrupt. Corruption is everywhere. But does corruption mean that you cannot do your work? No. Be corrupt all you like, but provide, deliver. That's what we're talking about. And Cape Town does that. There are more people, there are more people moving, migrating to Cape Town than there are people from Cape Town moving to Johannesburg or Durban combined. There are more people moving from the Eastern Cape to the Western Cape than there are people moving from the Western Cape to the Eastern Cape combined. What does that tell you? Right? Okay, I told you. Corruption is everywhere. But here, they make it work. Okay. Next, we talk about, I said there's no ANC. Greed, power. These are the two things that govern the ANC. You see, the ANC runs on greed. That's the main thing. Everybody in the ANC jostles for political positions because they know with position comes power. And that's what the ANC are mainly after. It's about self alignment, pocket alignment, the money, the power. It must be for each to his own. And that's what it's there for. It's never about service delivery. And how is this evident? You look into the city center. That's what you got to look at. If your city center does not represent the most beautiful part of your city, or one of the most beautiful parts of your city, then that means there's a dysfunction happening. Because no matter where you live, you would want to go into town, for example, just to get out of your safe zones. Sure, you can go to other areas. I mean, if you live in, let's just say you live in Rosebank, you'd want to go to Sandton. You can go to Sandton, then you want to go to, I don't know, Winchester Hills. Then you'd want to go to Northcliffe. You're just going from suburb to suburb to suburb. You'd want a change of environment. Now you can't go to Johannesburg city center because it's dangerous, it's dirty, it's filthy. Who wants that? You understand what I mean? People. Another thing is, I hate to say this, but it really, it really, it really pains me to say the way white people run things and the way black people run things is very evident right now, because you can see from the way these three cities are run that, yeah, we have a township mentality when it comes to running things. We have a spaza shop mentality when it comes to running things. And that is the way the ANC has been functioning for the past 30 years. They have been operating their organization like a spaza shop. You know, it's like a, I don't know, a show, because everyone's for themselves. That's the only thing the ANC really cares about. And that's the reason why there's so much degradation. I mean, it gets to a point where a president, not a president, but the president, demands that his people clean up the city before a major conference in November. Is the city not meant to be cleaned every single day? Are you only cleaning it up now because there's a conference coming? So if there wasn't a conference coming, were you going to demand that cleanup? No, because all these years you didn't demand no cleanup. But because there's a conference coming, now you demand a cleanup. Hmm. I'm not saying anything, right? Negative. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just stating the truth here. You know, my truth may not be your truth, but the truth is in the pudding. You understand what I'm saying? Johannesburg City Center looks like a show, and we all know what show means. Even even the president has now come down heavy on his people, because even he sees that it's a show, and it's only a shit show to him because he wants the conference happen in Johannesburg, and it cannot happen under those current conditions. That's what I'm saying. Now, if we have that type of mentality that we only clean up at Christmas time, why would we entrust you to run our city on an every day-to-day basis? I don't think so. That is why I said in a previous video, I asked the question, can black people run? And the answer was overwhelmingly no. Why? Because we're not built for this stuff. So, like I always say, stick to what you know, which is the manual work, menial, the physical labor, the being ordered around, you know, being given orders, carrying out orders, being watched. That's what we're good for. The big stuff, the whole mental capacity, brain stuff, leave that to the experts, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're just chasing money, but you're not competent in the position that you're in, but you're getting. I mean, look at the tender process. The tender process has literally brought South Africa to its knees. Just the just the lack of deliverance on tenders, procurement, that has really just. I mean, come on. The people that were tasked to set up the border fence, they charged R1 million a meter. Still no border fence. The people that are tasked to remove the asbestos roofs in the Free State, no deliverance, nothing done. A Steiner dairy farm, just a gate with just a gate. And then you tell me that that organization, the ANC, still wants to go ahead and win and try and fight for the Western Province. if they cannot even control one province? They cannot even develop two provinces, and yet they control eight provinces, and they were not even able to build up those eight provinces, and they still want a ninth province. Logic. How does that happen? How do you think? That is why sometimes I say, sometimes I do not blame white people for thinking that we are dumb, that we are stupid. Because if you cannot maintain one wife, how can you then want a second wife? Please answer me that. So the reasons why Cape Town work is because there's no ANC, there's no black influence at major level, there's low corruption, there's no cadre deployment, there's no comrade friendships. And the people at the top, well, maybe they're lining their pockets. Corruption is everywhere. Maybe they are lining their pockets. But the main thing is they are delivering what they promised to deliver. And that is why Cape Town seems to be working more than any other city in South Africa. Like I said to you, you can line your pockets. You can be corrupt as hell, but deliver on what your mandate is. So if you're failing to deliver on what your mandate is, but you're lining your pockets, how does that work? How does it work? Last but not least, everybody says to me, you're looking at the city center, you're looking at Sea Point, you're looking at all the white suburbs, rich suburbs, upper suburbs. That's the only place that works. Townships don't work. To that I say, have you been to Alexandra? Have you been to Tembisa? Have you been to Soweto? Have you been to Umlazi? Have you been to Kwamashu? Have you been to Soshanguve? Have you been to Mamelodi? Have you been to uh, Brits? Have you been to, I don't know, any other township, Deep Kloof or I don't know, Boipatong, any, just go to any township in any province. Tell me that Alexandra, Umlazi, Kwamashu, Mamelodi, and Soshanguve, and all these other townships. Please tell me if they are better run, if they are better equipped, if they are cleaner, if they have private security, if they have um, 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 well paved roads, if they have functioning robots, if they have. No, they don't. All townships look the same. And there's a reason why townships look the way they do. You see, what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that there's a certain amount of people, right, that live in the townships that like it that way. Because in that way, you do not pay rates, taxes, or anything. You live for free. So if you live for free, how can you expect development at the highest level? So, for example, if you don't pay rates and taxes, but you put your burn out, you don't pay rates and taxes, but you're expecting a private security company to come and check up on your house. You're expecting private security patrols. You're expecting ADT. You're expecting whoever else, but you don't pay rates or taxes. Does it work? No. The reason why townships look the way they do is because those are free spaces in most cases, especially the ones where there's just shacks, right? And when you live in a township, you are heavily subsidized. The amount of electricity, some townships, I don't like in Cape Town, there's I think an area called Joe Slovo, where the people get free electricity a for a, I don't know, for a certain amount of units. They just go and they punch in. I don't know if they still do it, but that's what I heard, that they used to get free electricity. Guys, there's even they even do illegal connections. I mean, where do you see that in the suburbs? You don't see that. In the suburbs, you don't see crime at a high rate. In the townships, you do. So how did the suburbs get rid of the crime rate and the townships don't? it's an effort, and those efforts include financial dedication, but a political will. And the townships, they don't want that. They don't need that because that's an extra cost to what they're already making. So, difference between suburb and township. Suburb knows to have a beautiful, peaceful life, you need to spend money. In the townships, we know to live a free life and to do whatever we want, but it will be a hellhole. We need to not spend anything. So if we're not spending, we're not expecting. We have to just deal with whatever comes our way. But if we're spending, we're expecting. And that is why we live an elevated life if you live in the suburbs. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. So don't look at this, don't look at the townships like they neglected, like they don't. No. Some people prefer it that way because it's a free life for a lot of people that live in the townships, or it's a heavily subsidized life when you live in the townships. That's the honest and brutal truth. Now, of course, you have electricity in the townships coming because there's ESCOM and you got to pay your electricity bill. You've got a meter box in now. So now you don't have these ESCOM bills that come in the 17,000, you 15,000, and no, you got an electric box. You run out of electricity, you go and you top up. There are people that live in the townships that can afford to move to the suburbs, but prefer to live in the township because they get to save more money and live a more grandeur lifestyle. Can you blame the DA or the ANC for some people's mentality of wanting to live in the township, even though they can afford to move up, but they choose not to? No. So, in closing, Cape Town works because there's no ANC. Cape Town works because there's no black mentality, black influence happening at the top level, management level. Because wherever the ANC puts its hands on, those things are doomed to fail. And luckily, for those who live in the Western Cape, the ANC has no hands here. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the main reason why the city works. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Was I on the money or did I totally miss it with this one? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla.